Hello, welcome to this week, which is chapter 10 of The Greatest Secret, and this chapter is called Everlasting Happiness. I'm really fascinated to see how our conversation goes tomorrow, because when in the early stages of this book we were reading about happiness, there was a lot of resistance to the word. There was a lot of cynicism and a lot of just not buying it. Like, we just don't buy that happiness is available as a permanent experience. And so I'm really fascinated to see what it's like for the group tomorrow when we meet and explore this topic of everlasting happiness. I'm going to read today a quote and just share a reflection about this chapter for myself, and see what comes up for you, see what questions or resistances you notice in yourself. So this quote is actually the very first one of this chapter by, I'm not going to try and say his name. Okay, let me try. Paramahansa, I think it's that, Paramahansa Yogananda. And he says, "I am living in the eternally happy present. It is not a mundane happiness, which becomes boring after a while, so that you welcome a little difficulty just for a change. The joy that has come upon me is 1,000 million times more intoxicating, ever changing, ever new. In that consciousness, you feel all the happiness in the world passing through you." And that for me just speaks about the difference between how the mind imagines everlasting happiness to be and the truth of everlasting happiness, which is actually experienced. And for me, that's where the resistance comes from, because the mind can't imagine a world of everlasting happiness. It thinks that's unrealistic, that's not real, that's impossible, it would be boring. Who wants to be happy all the time? We're here for the full experience of being a human. Now, I obviously don't know Paramahansa's experience. All I have is my own, and all you have is your own, so always test this for yourself. From my perspective, it seems like the everlasting happiness just becomes the background. It becomes the permanent knowing of happiness that we are, with the foreground doing whatever the foreground is doing. So there can still be times with my kids when things are challenging. There can still be things, so I was going to say changing my business, but that really doesn't look like a problem. Yeah, it's like problems dissolve. They don't even arise in the first place to then dissolve. It's just the next thing is here to be done. And it's not like a flat line of experience. It's just all done with this backdrop of happiness, this backdrop of knowing that I am that, and okayness is that, and it's there already. It's not something to be found. Certainly not out there in the world of ever-changing things. So the thing I really reflected on with this was maybe this cynicism of the mind with everlasting happiness is why there's actually not very much out there about it. So every week in the book group I share resources with the group relevant to the chapter we're reading. And what I came to find was that although there is a lot, especially Rupert Spira talks a lot about knowing ourself as the happiness that we're looking for, recognising that every time we felt happy it's because we're feeling our self, what we really are, our true self, our true nature. So he talks a lot about that, but there aren't very many places or people who I've seen talking about this experience of everlasting happiness. And as I say, maybe it's because the mind's first response is to be cynical, to assume it's nonsense, to assume it's impossible, to assume it would be boring, and essentially then to reject it. And of course it does that, because its entire existence is about this drama of back and forth between yay, oh, and it thinks that is the excitement of life. It thinks that is the fulfillment of life. But once you realise this backdrop, oh my goodness, well, that's the fulfillment, and now this can keep doing that, which is what it's always going to do. But there's a knowing that we're something much deeper than that. We're something before all of that up and down. So yeah, I'd love to hear what you think. Tell me what's coming up for you from this. Are you noticing a resistance in your own mind around the idea of everlasting happiness. Have you touched into, of course you have, but I was going to say, have you touched into this space of everlasting happiness? Of course you have. Every single time your dogs come to welcome you at the door, every single time a baby's gazed into your eyes, every single time you've seen a sunrise, you're having a momentary drop into that space. And all that happens through this work is that becomes the primary. So notice those moments you've already had. Consider that that's what you're feeling there is what you are. And yeah, let me know if there's things coming up that you think, oh, but that's impossible to live like that. That's not real. That can't be how it really is. I'd love to hear all that as well. And if you're interested in staying in this exploration with me, there's a weekly newsletter I send out, which you can get through my website. And also I have a membership community on Patreon. So if you search Helen Amery on there, but I'll also put the link in the comments, in the description even, for this video. There's 3 tiers of membership, so you can pick what's right for you. And it just provides you with a wealth of resources and connection with others who are in this work, as well as in the higher tiers. You get face-to-face live time with me as well. So do have a look and let me know if you have any questions, and I look forward to seeing you next week for chapter 11. Thank you. Bye.